Hi everyone, we're here back with another episode of Into Oblivion, where we give a bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes of a AWS Premier Partner such as Oblivion. And today we are covering reInvent, and not necessarily the announcements and the technology that was shared there, because we have covered those already. But I'm here with my two guests, Michel Zitman and Jeroen van der Leer, to talk a bit more about what's actually going on during the week of reInvent. You guys, you've both been here, but Michel, first introduce yourself.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here. Michel Zitman. I'm a cloud consultant and cloud financial management practice lead at Oblivion. And I've been with Oblivion for over 4 years, and this was my first reInvent experience.
Cool.
So keen to share how I experienced that.
And the opposite side, Jeroen.
Yeah, my name is Jeroen van der Leer. I'm also a cloud consultant with Oblivion. I've only been working there for a couple of years now, but this was my fifth physical reInvent.
A veteran.
You could say that. And I think it's my seventh time that I was in Vegas. So I know the place a little bit. I focus mainly on topics like Cloud Center of Expertise and transformation. So
okay, well, welcome both. So Michel, right off the gate, you mentioned your first time at reInvent.
Yeah.
How do you plan for something like that? Because I can imagine there's a lot of topics covered, a lot of places to be.
Yeah, sure. It's hard. So you plan. As you first of all, the first thing I did was to talk to colleagues that have been there, and to ask, okay, how does it go? What is the pace? And I haven't been there on site, but I have been attending sessions on reInvent when it's live streamed, and then you also make, okay, this session is going to be streamed or for the first time on this day at this hour. Then you try to plan from here, and then you have the time zone thing. But when you go in there, you can really prepare. So sometimes if you want to watch from here, you have, okay, this is going to be in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to watch this announcement, so I'm going to watch a replay. But if you're there, you can really plan your whole day. So after talking, I hear from colleagues, okay, it's really intense. Try not to book your whole day because it's going to be very fast-paced. And the distances between the places. But of course, I said, okay, I want to go here, I want to go here, and I want to be on this one as well. So my first calendar for reInvent I was fully booked. And then after a second round of talks, I said, okay, I think I'm going to give up on this one. And then things start to pop up, even before you get there. Oh yeah, we'll have dinner with these guys, and then we have this activity to do. It's not only about the content, that is being released. The content is really a big part of it, and it's really important. It's the week for AWS announcements in a year. But there's a lot more to it, and that plays a role on the planning as well. Yeah. So it was. I don't have screenshots on how my first calendar looked like and the actual sessions I attended, but at least half the sessions I had to drop, and a lot of the times you decide just not to book something and say, okay, I'm gonna see how it goes, and you have the opportunity to do sort of walk-ins, so they reserve seats for people that plan ahead, but after 10 minutes before the sessions, they usually, if you're not there, they release the seats, and they probably reserve at least 25% of the seats of every session to people that couldn't plan ahead, and they bought the tickets to reInvent really in the last minute. They want to go. So there is always a chance if you walk in the line, and then if there is space, you're going to get in. So planning is important, but keep in mind, there's so much happening that don't fully book yourself, because it's going to be really hard to accomplish that. And you're going to miss on other stuff.
I can imagine. Jeroen, is it something that you can elaborate on? Is it something that you have learned by now from a few years of reInvent?
Yeah. So it changes, right? But what I would say is that preparation begins weeks in advance by asking your family for a shopping list, because obviously they're going to want you to buy some stuff in the US. Abercrombie and Fitch is very popular with my children. So leave enough space in your luggage. So anybody that's planning to go there, that's my first tip. Make sure you have space in your luggage. Second of all, you go through the catalog of sessions, and you start planning. But you know from experience that they will also announce new sessions as new services are released. So you need to keep a little bit of space. And also what I found is that once you're there, you change your mind about a topic. Maybe a topic you were very interested in 4 weeks prior to leaving. Suddenly when you're there is no longer as interested as much of an interest to you as it was before. So you change your mind. And with the walk-ups and the reserved seating, I've been there once where if you didn't have reserved seating, you had absolutely no chance of getting into the session. And I've been there during years where almost everybody got into every session. But it also depends a little bit on the session. So I have a little bit of experience. If I walk up onto a floor and I see a huge queue, then I'm like, okay, I'll go to a different session. Or sometimes I might just leave just before the end of the session to make it to another session because they're staggered. After 5 years, you know your way around the conference a little bit.
Yeah. So, but what's it like? What's a day like at reInvent? I can imagine with such a full agenda, you also want to make the most out of it.
Yeah, well,
where do you start?
Well, you start by waking up early, if you've slept at all, to be honest, because it's not easy to get good sleep there because of the jet lag and because of the noise in the hotels, because there's also a party crowd, which can wake you up at night. But so we start with breakfast usually at 7 a.m., which is early. I often go for a run. So if I'm awake early in the morning, the sunrise is very early in Vegas. So you have some daylight very early, so you can go out for a run, visit places just a little bit outside of the Strip, where you also see, I would say, the darker side of Vegas, a couple of homeless people, but also you see a lot of logistics. So you start to get a feel of how big these conferences are, and sometimes you can see the replay party being built up, and there's a lot of logistics always going on, because you and I may see all the neon light and the flashing lights and the conference, but when the conference leaves, there's a lot of stuff which needs to be moved as well, and it's all stored somewhere in a parking lot. Go for a run, and you will see all those things. So it's you get up early, then you go to your sessions, which are usually if there's a keynote going on that day, maybe between 8 and 6, sometimes even a little bit later. Then it's back to the hotel. I tend to be in charge of dinner reservations for some reason.
Good taste.
Yeah, no, well, I know a few places there.
Lack of volunteers.
I guess. But I don't mind. So I know a few places where you can have dinner, and then so we sit down as a team, we discuss things. This year, because of COVID and a lot of larger corporations had some travel restrictions, there weren't as many customers as we usually have there. So. In other years, we host dinners in the evening, which means we have to host a table and we have to keep the conversation going, talk about the cloud, talk about all sorts of subjects. So, there's listening during the day, talking during the night, have a bit of dinner, have a couple of drinks, and then hopefully get to bed before midnight so you can get up again.
Do it all again.
At 6 or 7 the next day. So it's intense, and I think you have the same experience.
Yeah, it's super intense, I would say. Things that really come to mind again as a first timer is if you don't really know the places, right? As it was my experience, I have never been to Vegas before, and you can imagine the magnitude and the size of the facilities, the hotels and everything. But going from session A to session B, you might need a shuttle, and then you may need to wait for that shuttle to leave, even though are quite frequent. And then you get to a point in the hotel B, right? And then you need to walk another 10 minutes to get to the session. And then, okay, even if you have like 15 minutes from the moment this one ends and to the other one starts, you may need half hour to get from one to another. And this is just reality. Yeah. So it's you need to have that idea of everything is bigger. Yeah. Right? Vegas is really everything is looking really outside of proportion. So this is one thing. Then the day coming along, it's early, and then you put together. It's intense, and you're still doing all these things, all the sessions, and learning and absorbing content, and then discussing a little bit with people. Maybe I try to go talk to the speakers of the sessions I was in, and exchange a few ideas and explain a few things or ask some things, and walking and rushing to get something to eat. So there was 2 of the days I couldn't eat. There are a lot of provided meals, right? They have these restaurants they build up. It's honest food and all, but I just had to grab a pack of chips and a Coke or something like this and rush to the other one, to the next one. Okay. And these choices you make, right? I'm not going to sit for half hour to eat, but I'm going to just rush to the next one. And it's the whole day like this. Then you stop somewhat 6 or something, quick shower, then go to dinner and a couple of drinks. Do this with a jet lag, with a third day, you're starting to get tired. Yeah, but you need to keep going through, right? So it's important to just give yourself time to do things. So you don't need to run to from one place to the other. At least you can walk. It's already some sort of it's the moment I can rest. Talk to the family and on the phone on the way to one place or the other, and so things like this. Yeah, because for me as someone who watch reInvent through the live streams, it's to me I see the shows, I see the music, the people. To me it's like one big party. But we were there of the guys from Oblivion. You were together with 3 other colleagues. You come there, of course, to work still. There's a lot of people you meet. I would think. Yeah, so from this sense, it's magnific. You see people from every sort of background, business, technical, people just trying to make connections there, people from AWS, but everybody is there because of it, right? Because of that event. So there is a common thing uniting everything that is happening and everybody that is there. So that facilitates connections. And then when you walk through and then you stop on the line for a walk up and then you start listening to the conversations, you can easily tap in and starts discussing the same things, right? It doesn't matter where they come from, the people, different countries, completely continents. Doesn't matter. It's so easy to get the conversation started and flowing. So this is really nice. Also, it's very different. I interact a lot with partners, right? So
partners of Oblivion.
Oblivion, and then, but it's so different to be there and to have the conversations face to face, to be able to follow up on that later, right? So it gives a different energy to it. This is really nice. I really think this is a very important aspect, that it's just not the same as of having a Zoom meeting or a Chime meeting, whatever tool used. Is not the same. So this is really cool.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Working of course with AWS a lot, which also happens over distance, as it already did before it was necessary. It must be nice to see some familiar faces in real life, especially in such a big setting.
Yeah. So probably I think we saw more of each other there than we might have done the whole year here back home. Physically. And you're also able to meet some people from AWS who you might normally not have an opportunity to meet. We met with somebody from Xebia in the US. He came over for a day, we had dinner, went to Replay. So those are all opportunities that are there. And also, in a very different context. Usually when you're doing a video conference or something, you talk about work, right? And this time we had the opportunity to be in a karaoke bar and sing together. It wasn't very good, but the singing, but but the atmosphere was good, and it's nice to, Amazonians tend to be fun people, right? There aren't many boring Amazonians, so you're in a good crowd, I would say, and you can have a bit of fun, So yeah, in that sense, and it's great for team building. I think we spend a lot of time together, we talk, we get to know each other even better. So in that respect, awesome.
Yeah, and on the topic of learning, because of course you are there for the sessions, for the announcements. What did you take away this year? What's your feeling, Michel, that AWS is the direction AWS is headed?
Well, in general, I followed really closely everything to do with cloud financial management, of course. And what struck me is that the announcement of the sixth pillar of the well-architected framework, the sustainability pillar, was announced on the keynote of Werner Vogels. And for me, those two subjects, they really relate. They're really close together because sustainability is a thing on its own, but the way we approach cloud financial management being about efficiency in the cloud, and efficiency has everything to do with sustainability. And looking at that and how AWS is really making an effort towards being greener, I found this an enormous takeaway that has to do with the way they do develop technology. So making the new generation of processors that support the instances that were released more efficient and with better performance. This is all adds up and has to do. So I really see that as a big trend for AWS. Not only for them, but we can it's really tangible what they're doing about it. And cool. I think this is what was really a trend that I picked up, that I see going through all the years.
Jeroen, anything for you that stood out?
Well, first of all, the leadership change, of course, because Andy Jassy handed over to Adam Slipsky, and he did well. Also, what I like to do is, I went there the first time in 2016, right? And I was still employed by a large financial services institution, and I looked around and I, never judge a book by its cover, but judging by what I saw, my impression was that the crowd was largely technical. And but over the years, that changed. Maybe I went to different types of sessions, but I saw a different type of person also starting to visit reInvent. So the techies were still there, but they were accompanied by people more, maybe HR, wondering how am I going to attract talent which can pull off this whole cloud journey for me, maybe some more compliance and security oriented people. So they dress differently. Again, never judge a book by its cover, but this was my impression. This year was a little bit atypical, I guess, because it was a subset of people that could come, because a lot of countries, I think, because of travel restrictions, still could not travel to the US. I think Europe was a little bit behind. Some Asian countries were behind. Koreans I saw quite a bit, but I don't think Japan was there. So it was a little bit different. But as the crowd evolves, I think AWS evolves as well, right? So the more interest you get from the more corporate types, compliance people, and so forth, you will also get services which are targeted towards that. For instance, these new pillars that were announced, or the one pillar that was announced, sustainability, gets more attention. Compliance gets more attention, and that is what you observe. But to a large extent, the format was still the same as it was years ago. Hasn't really changed because it's a successful format, I think.
Yeah, and it's not only just them presenting knowledge. It's also there are more technical workshops, right?
Yeah. So if you have the energy, definitely take part in one of those workshops. I took part in a Cloud Adoption Framework workshop, not this year, but 2 years ago. And it does require a bit of energy, so you have to take part instead of just listen. There are chalkboard sessions, all sorts of sessions which are more interactive. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, one of the best sessions was a workshop that I attended there.
Okay. Which was?
It was about the Kudos dashboards from AWS, and I think. Not only actually doing something during the session, it was a longer session, of course, and then you had a big team from AWS walking around and helping people out. But it surprised me the amount of people attending that session, which made me super happy, of course. So this is a thing that is growing. But in terms of if I could add up more of these type of sessions in the next experience, I would do that. Okay. If it fits in, right? I'm not going to attend a workshop that has I have little interest to, just because it's maybe more interactive. But I would do it if it fits my interests. And just to complement something that we talked a little before about the team experience there. Which I think this year was different, as Jeroen said, because we didn't have customers together attending. And that played a role in the amount of time we could spend together just as a team with each other and doing things together. So we did a trip and some sort of tour guided tour through the Valley of Fire. And it was... things really revolved around the connections of the people, even internally as a team. So it was a nice experience, even though different, really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, nice. But it's cool that you mentioned because we have some pictures to get some more insight into what you experience, of course. So I'll pull some up on the screen behind me. For those listening, I'm sorry, check out the video as well. But so this one was probably one from the first keynotes, I can imagine. So what's it like being in such a massive crowd that all come for these new announcements and these new technologies? Jeroen.
Yeah, it's awesome. First of all, so this year was downscaled a little bit. So I've been to one re:Invent where there were 65,000 attendants, and this time it was limited to 20,000.
I think in the end that they announced 27,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in any case, everybody was able to get into the keynotes, and that wasn't always the case. You can also decide to not sit in the big room and go to an overflow where you have a very comfortable chair and whatnot. But I like to be in the keynote hall because that's where the vibe is. Yep. And, they announce stuff like, I remember, well, it starts with the band, right? And usually the band is really good because this year, I mean, this guy was rocking, I think. He played at, I think he played before re:Invent, but, it's always good stuff. I like it. I like the music. So, and I remember Werner's keynote, he announced something about Amsterdam, and then we all went like, woo, yeah, Amsterdam. And the people were looking at us like, what's your problem? We are from around Amsterdam. So we have to explain that a little bit. But sometimes you will get one individual in a hall with 20,000 people, screaming like, yeah, this is what I've been waiting for, when something's announced. So there's a very good vibe there.
It's really not something you get watching it through a screen at home.
There are the vibe overall is really cool in those big rooms, especially the announcements that the crowd really cheers, and sometimes there are the slightly awkward ones where the presenter is expecting a big reaction from the crowd, and then you have some high applause and. okay, move on, dude.
Yeah.
And, but it is overall, the vibe is really cool. And to be, imagine, I think this hall specifically could seat over 5,000 people.
Okay.
It was massive.
Yeah.
That picture doesn't make justice to the size. And it was, the keynotes were full.
Yeah, packed.
Packed.
Yeah.
So I would say if you plan to go there, I have one tip for newbies. If you've just finished a bottle of water, make sure you get a seat which is kind of on the aisle so you can leave, and also find your seat back again.
Yeah.
Because once you've been and then you look into the hall and you think, okay, where was I seated? You know, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So have somebody raise their hand or something, but
Yeah.
make sure you find your seat back again, because it
Okay.
can be that's I can tell you from experience.
It's massive. Okay. And in this next picture, of course, we have a long history with AWS. This was a list of the premier tier partners, which we are also lucky to be part of, at least worked hard for to be part of. I can imagine that you meet a lot of peers, other partners, other leaders in this segment. Do you get a bit of time to brainstorm or work on new projects or?
Actually, you get to make as many connections as you're willing to, let's say, because the constraint would be time. People were willing to connect. So in terms of partners, yes, we still did something with the Benelux partners attending. So there was an event at Topgolf. I specifically arrived at the moment they closed the bill, but then I joined the people later on. But because I was attending a different event for FinOps people, and then I made a choice. But it was you can, and there was a Benelux drinks organized by AWS, which was really cool, where other partners were there. The interaction with the other partners was cool. The drinks, there was one good beer maybe.
Yeah, well, I would say the venue they chose, probably they wouldn't choose again next year. It was the most fun venue. But the Topgolf is always
it's
fun.
cool.
Yeah, it's good.
It was. I could have been there kind of half hour earlier. Maybe I would have enjoyed. But I had a good time at the other event too. So.
Cool.
So yes, you get to interact with all these people, and you get to talk about initiatives. And as partners, it's funny. Sometimes you share some pains that AWS direct customers don't, because AWS is really customer oriented and obsessed and data driven. But from a partner perspective, sometimes. You represent many customers behind you, right? Sometimes, but AWS is one partner, and that sometimes doesn't get the weight. And having the opportunity to talk not only directly to AWS but also to other partners, and realize they also sometimes have the same issues or struggles. Maybe it's a better word. It's nice, so you don't feel alone, right? Oh, I'm not fighting or trying to get something done by AWS that it's not possible. I have company here, right? So it is a really good aspect as well.
Okay, cool, nice. Yeah, I can imagine you were part of the same team, of course, that went to reInvent, but
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not an APN ambassador, and but you know, if you know them a little bit, then they might take you to one of their parties, and you know, you can mingle in the crowd, and you know, try to get things done as a partner, you know, because a lot of the partners share the same things, and you know, if you inform the ambassadors, they might get onto the subject as well, discuss it with the AWS. And there might be improvements on the way, right? So, it is a really good opportunity to network with AWS, with the partners. Like I said, this year with the customers, it was a bit difficult because there weren't that many customers from the Benelux. But yeah, in general, it's just a very good opportunity to build your network.
Okay, so for a next pick is a bit more of the landscape, the surroundings of Las Vegas, because we've seen the pictures of the halls and the rooms, but it's of course in the middle of the city. What's the surroundings like? What's the life like in?
The city never sleeps, right? It's at daylight. Yes, we got beautiful weather. I think it wasn't really hot, and it was it doesn't rain a lot, right? But it was a good balance, and it's really different to look at the strip itself during daylight, and then at night all the lights is really perhaps overwhelming at some point, but it's cool, right? To walk around and see the people, and you have people dressed up and drunk people, and people just in a really cheerful mood, not drunk, but really you can see excited. They're happy and excited to be there. You have people gambling all the time, and every single place you walk in, you have some slot machines at least, and it's shows all over the place, and attractions and entertainment. Very few places could support this happening. Yeah. And one interesting thing that the tour guide told us is that Vegas as a metropolitan area is one of the fastest growing regions in the US since the 90s. And we tend to look at Vegas just as the strip, right? But it's a lot more than that. As you said, all the preparations, all the logistics behind, you need a lot of people. So there are over 2 million people living there. Yeah. And then, of course, you need that amount of people just to have people working in all these huge hotels and everything. There is a need for a huge workforce to support events with 60,000 people or more. Yep. There was a rodeo event afterwards, right? Bigger than reInvent was.
Much bigger.
So, that came after.
That came after.
So that's the same every year. After reInvent, there's the rodeo finals or something. Okay. So you see the crowd change, right? You see people with Stetsons, the big cowboy hats, and the boots, and obviously they look different from the techies who wear hoodies, and they also instantly recognize you as a techie, right? So they will ask you, "Hey, you guys here for the tech convention?" We ask, "Are you here for the rodeo convention?" The answer is always yes. So and then at the end of the conference, you get to mingle with those people, and you can have an interesting conversation with them in a bar if you want. Yeah. So,
a nice change of topics maybe after a day of tech, going back to the more
you can talk about cattle. And,
now talking about nature, because you also got the chance to discover more of the surroundings there. This is a photo of the full team that went to reInvent. Can you tell us a bit about this trip? Well, I can imagine it was quite a hike.
We went there by car, luckily.
American hike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could, I suppose you could do very long hikes there. We were fortunate enough. So basically where we went is the Valley of Fire. And the Valley of Fire is about less than an hour's drive outside of Vegas. It's beautiful nature. There's evidence of American native inhabitants there, I think 700 after AD.
Anno Domini. Anno Domini.
Anno Domini. That's it, after death, I always say. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's after birth. Regardless, it's beautiful nature, right? And we were lucky enough to be able to go there in November, because if you go there in July and August, you'll probably die.
From heat.
If you stand in the sun long enough, you're probably gonna dehydrate and slowly die.
40 degrees, 45 degrees.
Yeah, but still in winter you went there, and it was what for us would be spring temperatures, right?
Yeah, it's like 18, 19 degrees Celsius. So it was very comfortable. So we could hike and run up a few. Not really run, but climb up a few rocks, and it was a very good experience. And of course, the tour guide told us a little bit about the history, why Vegas exists in the first place. It's because there's a railroad between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. And somewhere there, they found an area where there's water. And when there's water, that's where people
there
go.
was the base for the people working on the railway to keep building it, and then it became and it's super recent, right? As a city, I think it's about 100 years old or so. It's fairly new, and then the spur came in the 90s, where they really tripled the population to what it is, I think, nowadays.
Yeah, and I think it was the Hoover Dam. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it was. When they started building those, of course, you get a lot of people that do nothing else than build all day, and they need some light entertainment in the evening. And I think that's how the entertainment industry got started. It's also when organized crime started finding their way there, because, of course, gambling wasn't completely legal, and so forth. And it's evolved from there. And and we this year also we got to go to the kind of more original part of Las Vegas, called downtown, Fremont Street, which is a place where some older hotels were, and they were starting to get a little bit run down. But there's been fresh money that went into it. There is newly built places, and there's an area where people perform, sing, and arts, and all sorts of stuff. And it's a really nice buzz. And there's a great pizza restaurant there called Pizza Rock. I mean,
great beers.
Yeah.
The beers are great, and the atmosphere is great. The pizza is okay. It's American pizza. It's so if you're spoiled by Italian pizzas, then probably you won't find it so great. But it's always a nice evening out, and we tend to do that on Sundays when we're there. So
cool, nice. And also, of course, reInvent tends to close with replay. I believe this year Zed was doing a set. How is it? It's really like at the end of the week, right? To close off all the formal stuff and.
Indeed. So, this huge pavilion that we can see, basically they had another one, and not exactly the same type of pavilion on the other side, but the structures equivalent in size. So you have 3 huge structures and different things happening on each one. So this one, I think, was the main attraction for the DJs, and then after that, Zad. And then there was another one with full of attractions like games and arcades and things. That there was a office chair run race. Where you had pairs, and people had to push each other on office chairs with real helmets and all that, so there was no accidents. So it's fun to see people just going, interacting. I was, to be very honest, very hesitant of staying so much inside because of COVID.
Can imagine,
but this, me particularly, you could see people were just having a really great time doing that. And then after some time exploring, I just was grabbing some beers and staying on the outside. They had also some small tables, and people could just stay out a little and actually listen to each other without having to shout. But it was really cool. It's again, everything is huge. And looking from an event perspective, I can only imagine how much work they have to put on this. And just this party it's an event that takes a lot of preparation and investment and effort to get done. Put together the whole conference, all the days and all that. It's incredible work. It's really cool. Yeah. And it's worth while being there.
Yeah, worthwhile in the sense of, well, everything you learn, everything you see, but also the connections that you can make, the experience outside of the
experience, the atmosphere that you can have. It's a lot about you as well. How do you face it, right? So I can imagine some people are so knowledge-oriented or so introspective and shy. They would just go to their sessions and stay on their room till next day, and then just eat, go to sessions, and back to the room, and that's their week. I respect that. I think the reInvent can offer a lot more than this, and you should try. If you are very shy and introspective, you should make an effort to interact more, because you will get a lot in return for that. So this is one key tip for people trying to go in
nice.
There.
Any closing remarks from your side, Jeroen?
Well, I mean, you showed the pictures which can be showed. The other pictures, I guess, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But it wasn't so bad. But yeah, Replay is a really nice party. And also, what I would say is that it is very specific to AWS, right? I've been to other conferences, and the parties are nowhere near as good. But in specific, I would say that stuff like racing with office chairs, like you mentioned, or broom ball, and they have a lot of these geeky kind of nerdy events, right? And that's very specific to AWS, I think, and it shows what kind of company AWS is. They are still very tech oriented, at the same time always trying to provide business value. So, there's something for everyone. Replay is great. I actually had to go to sessions at 9 a.m. or something in the next morning. I found that quite a challenge, but I went. And, overall, absolutely, if you go to re:Invent and you don't go to Replay, then you're missing out. So always go to Replay.
Oh, noted. Nice. Cool. Okay, well, thanks both for your insights on this, extraordinary event, but it's nice to see some experience from behind the scenes. And then I want to thank everyone for watching till this point. Thanks for the attention, and stay tuned for more episodes. Bye.